Who's that coming down the track? Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and black. Mean machine in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Them drunk obnoxious Georgia fans. Them drunk obnoxious Georgia fans. Go, go! Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John and Kaleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. You can always find us on Millions and as a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Tonight, we are breaking down some of the best games across the country for Week 10. But before we get to all of that, how you been? What are you drinking?
I have been pretty good. You know, it's Halloween at the time we're recording this, so the little girl and I just went trick-or-treating. And hang on just one second. So here in Augusta, things get a little crazy sometimes in different neighborhoods. So most people don't go to their own neighborhoods. If they want candy that's not laced with fentanyl or something, most of the time they go to the rich neighborhood and trick-or-treat. So we did that. But apparently you still can't trust it sometimes because somebody put a complete and total failure in my daughter's candy.
What is that? Is that Sunbelt Billy?
That is Sunbelt Billy. Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest,
if you're not watching
picture,
on video.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see in the video that looks like a skinnier and younger version of Sunbelt Billy. It seems like the Florida head coaching job ages you like a president.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this was the first picture of him that was taken at spring practice when he first got there. So that would explain the age. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that bit. I'm drinking water because I'm boring. But what about you? How was your October 31st?
Well, I worked about 2.5 hours away from the house all day. Got home, started some laundry because I'm leaving legitimately tomorrow. I am waking up, finishing packing my bag, leaving to do our radio spot at Rock 106.1, and leaving from there to go to Orlando for the next week. So busy as shit. Friend of mine who's already, was already a little sideways for Halloween texted me and said, "Hey man, can you pick me up to go to disc golf tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And that's why we are starting recording late, because my friend talks quite a bit and let's just say was not only drinking tonight. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that I was able to get him there and back safely.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's why we're a little behind tonight. But I got a little bit of this larceny barrel proof. But considering I had a couple of PBRs earlier, just gonna be honest. When you go from PBR to 124 proof, it tastes like gasoline. So I'm gonna let this shit sit and breathe for a minute. So hopefully next time I take a sip, I can taste it.
Fair enough. That's the adult Halloween candy right there.
It is. And larceny being a wheat-based bourbon is very sweet normally, unless you are drinking PBR beforehand.
Fair enough.
But yeah, no, I am not known as the most responsible individual, unless it comes to drinking and driving, and then that is a hard line. That's my fucking Great Wall of China. That's my border wall. That's my coastline. Do not pass kind of situation. But I do want to talk about this on a lighter note because it's just kind of come into fruition over the last day or so. We are super excited to say that we are having another watch party with Barrel House for the Ole Miss game.
All right.
So with that being a 3:30 game, just a little inside the park baseball. They scheduled their bands for Saturday nights about a year in advance. So with Georgia having so many away night games this year, we have quite literally not been able to have a watch party based on when their bands are scheduled and when the game time starts. But with Ole Miss being a 3:30 game, we are doing a watch party for this one. We're super excited. We are giving away, once again, my personal tickets to the UMass game. Um, so if you go to our Instagram at nothing.finer.pod, you'll get all the information on how to do that. But if you want an extra entry into the giveaway on top of everything the post says, if you want an extra entry into the giveaway, send me a screenshot of your receipt from the millions.co page of where you bought something from us. We will actually, hopefully, be putting some little buttons, like shirt buttons, up
Yeah,
for
there you go.
sale on our social media. It probably won't be through Millions just because of I would have to ship it to them and they would have to ship it to you, and that shit just takes too long. Um, so on our social media, we will have buttons for sale here soon. We have a bunch of designs available, but I'm going on vacation next week, so honestly, just don't want to take the Cricut and the button maker and all that kind of shit down to vacation with me. But if you guys buy something for Millions or us, or if you're in Savannah, decide to come to the watch party and hang out with us. If you buy something there, you will get an extra entry into the ticket giveaway, even if you buy something 5 minutes beforehand.
There we go.
So we're trying to do that, give some stuff away, but it is for the tickets to the UMass game. My personal tickets, once again, so you will be sitting in my seats. Just to keep, appearances up. I need you to lose your voice. I don't care that it's
Yeah.
UMass. I don't care if the game gets ugly.
Somebody's got to make up for what this guy would have done if he were there. So,
Thank you. That's the point I was trying to make. But
yeah.
regardless of the tickets, we are super excited to do another watch party with Barrel House. They're doing specials on buckets of beer, shots, Orderly Tacos, got a special game day menu, all phenomenal. We're super excited. We've been trying to schedule one quite literally since the Sunday after the Clemson game, and this is the first time it's worked out. But just a little, once again, inside the park baseball, we are working on a watch party somewhere in the Savannah area, whether it is Barrel House or somewhere else, for every playoff game and potentially the national championship game, if I can take that next day off, because I'm not doing a watch party and going to work at 7 o'clock the next morning. I'm too old for
Yeah.
that shit,
Fair.
But
Absolutely.
we are working on that. We're trying to do some cool shit locally. So if you're in Savannah, come hang out with us. Um, we're just trying to have fun. That's what this whole thing's about.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of fun, when you're not gonna have fun,
Saturday at noon, is that when you're
it,
not going to have fun?
correct. Well, I will be, because I will hopefully be actively on a ride at Universal Saturday at noon.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
The rest of you, not so much. And that's because Ohio State at Penn State is Saturday at 12 p.m. Ohio State, 3.5 point favorites, over under 45.5.
They gave it the big nooner.
They did. So we've got some top ranked teams in the country playing each other this week in a whiteout game in Happy Valley. So you know what that means?
I imagine that means it should be a night game.
Yeah, except for Fox hates college football and fucks it up. And not only do they put this game at noon, they have a top 2 annoying voice in college football commentating this game in Gus Johnson.
Yeah. He is the worst. And if I'm Penn State, I'm furious about this deal with Fox. And
Yeah.
like them insisting on putting their biggest games at noon. Like even CBS, they were the kings of the 3:30 time slot back when they had the SEC thing, which how much are they regretting that right now? They couldn't even get this game. But even they would have put on a double header and have a prime time game if it meant that we'd get like a top 10 matchup in Death Valley at night.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
some environments are just too good for 11 a.m. local time.
I this is not something that I researched or had written down, but the last night game whiteout that I remember was the 2016 game against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And look, guys, if you've listened to the show for long enough, you know, not only am I not a Penn State fan, I don't necessarily like Penn State. I don't necessarily like James Franklin. But it doesn't mean I don't respect what they do at certain points.
Yeah.
And Penn State whiteout, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, I don't give a shit what it is. If Penn State's doing a whiteout, you don't put it at noon.
No, ever.
Like, I don't care if this is their game against Kent State. If they're doing a whiteout, that is a night game. Because going back, I want to say even further than it had to be 2015. Going back to 2015, it is an all-time college football clip. They had a whiteout at night against Michigan. Very first play of the game, Mo Bamba playing, all the students losing their fucking minds.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan took a timeout before the first play of the game because it was so loud. Shea Patterson did not know what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's still going to be loud.
It's not a night game.
It's not a night game. And you know what? Right now, if I look up the Fox listings for Saturday night at 7:00 p.m., do you know what it says?
I don't know, like fucking women's collegiate darts.
Not even. It's to be announced. They don't have anything scheduled there. That's the crazy thing.
And, I know Fox claims that the noon slot is the most watched slot on Saturdays for college football.
I don't buy that.
First off, I don't either. Just up front, point blank period, I don't. But if you are saying whatever SEC night game this week, which, to be fair, half the SEC teams are on a bye week this week, the other half is a ranked team playing an unranked team. Are some of these games going to be better than ranked versus unranked? Sure. But are they going to be Penn State or Ohio State at Penn State at night for a whiteout? Fuck no.
No.
Going back to that 2016 game, I may have talked about this on the show. I may not have. If I have, sue me. Or please don't, actually. But fun fact, that game, 2016 Penn State or Ohio State at Penn State whiteout, started at night. I was in the National Guard at the time. I had to be an hour and a half, almost 2 hours away at 4:00 in the morning. You know what I did for that game? I stayed up, watched it, drove to the fucking armory, and slept in my car.
Yeah.
Like, there was no part of me that was going to sleep for that.
No. It was electric.
So, I believe I only have this clip one other time for anything. Fuck you, Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And my mouse just died, so this will be interesting for the rest of the episode. Yeah, no, it's atrocious. What you guys are doing to college football convinces me that you hate college football. The fact that you still have Gus Johnson, and you know what? I'll just go ahead and say it. The most annoying voices in college football go Beth Mallins at 1, Gus Johnson at 2.
Yeah.
Kirk Herbstreit calling an Ohio State game at number 3. And
Yeah.
there is a wide gap to number 4.
Mm-hmm. Who's Gary, by the way? But it's a wide gap.
Gary's voice doesn't pain my soul the way the other.
Okay, you're talking about the physical sound of the voice, and
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
My
Okay,
problem
not
with
the
Gary
badness of the
is that
commentary.
he gets paid way too much money to not pronounce anybody's name correctly.
Yeah.
Like,
all right.
Well, as far as his takes, as far as everything else Gary does, I don't care. But It took 2.5 years for him to say Sony Michelle right. It was Sony Mitchell for the longest time.
Mm-hmm. And what
And
was it? Who was it? Was always, gosh, I don't remember whose it was. Marcus Jackson Rose or something like that. He always said something with Marcus Rose and me Jackson that was just
yeah,
painfully wrong.
yeah.
But
No, that's my biggest issue with Gary Danielson. That's one of the reasons that every time we talk to somebody on the show, we ask them their name. And if we are talking about a team that we cannot figure out a pronunciation, we ask them before we say it.
yeah,
Because I listen to Gary just mispronounce easy names for way too long for me to tolerate it on something I have control over.
oh yeah,
All right, so
but
now to get into the game itself.
yeah,
I went on a rant there, once again on the way home from disc golf, listening to some old school Lil Wayne and the F is for Fired Up. And also, if you don't get that, educate yourself. Like, we're hopefully you're too old to not understand that. And if you're not, please go go learn. You
yeah.
know, you don't need to go to school. Just
This is the real
Spotify,
stuff.
Apple Music, Lil Wayne, start at the beginning, go to the end, and you'll realize why everybody 10 years older than you loves them. So this is much more difficult without a mouse. All right, here we are. This is the first time since 2017 Penn State has been the higher ranked team. In 2017, they were number 2 and Ohio State was number 6. This year, Penn State is number 3, Ohio State is number 4. Penn State is coming into this game with the 5th overall strength of record, while Ohio State is 16th. Fun fact about strength of record, Georgia is technically first. Um,
I believe
just
it.
throwing that out there. Um, so this far into the season, they don't have any common opponents, which is kind of wild for the Big Ten, but
Yeah,
they just kind of added anybody who has an average GPA of over 3 and has sports. Kind of the downfall of the Big Ten, if you ask me.
yeah.
But so what I did going into this is I'm doing a total overall ranking of opponents. What I did for that is I averaged their opponent's total offense and total defense and averaged that score. So if somebody was 35th in total offense and 55th in total defense, I took the average between 35 and 55, added those together with all the other opponents, and took a total average of everybody that played. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I follow.
All right, so at Ohio State's average opponent ranking is 67.9, and that is a 77.4 on offense and a 58.4 on defense. Penn State, on the other hand, is 73.3 with an 85 even on offense and a 61.5 on defense. Ohio State has the 6th ranked rushing defense with an opponent's average rushing offense rank of 61.2 and the 8th ranked passing defense with opponent's average passing offense of 80.3. Penn State has the 8th ranked rushing defense with an opponent average rushing offense of 82 and the 19th ranked passing defense with opponent's average passing offense of 73.7.
So, in other words, big fish, small pond is what we're seeing from these teams.
Yeah, no, I did this entire outline this afternoon, been busy all week. Would you like to know what percentage of the time it took me to do the outline that this one section took me?
What percentage of the whole time?
Yeah,
I'm gonna say I haven't read the rest of it in detail, so I don't know what those things you're bringing in necessarily. I've read it a little bit. I'm gonna say 65%.
it's close. It's close. When you're talking about 14 different opponents in 5 different areas,
Yeah.
getting averages, took a while just to find the rank and then add it all together and then do the division. Here's the bad thing. I did all that research just to find out it tells me that neither team has played anybody.
Which we could have known already.
Yes, but quantifying it is different than the eye test
That's true.
because if Penn State beat the hell out of Akron, but Akron has put up 400 yards of offense against everybody else,
Yeah.
there's
And we'd never know because we don't watch Akron. Yeah.
correct.
But that has not happened, I assume.
No, the only significant opponent that either team has played was Oregon, who beat Ohio State.
Hmm.
To be fair, that was a close game where Ohio State, between their player's decision and coach's decision, lost that game.
Yeah.
They still lost that game.
He slid with no time. Sorry.
There was 1 second left, is the problem.
That's, yeah. He had a timeout. Come on, Ryan.
Yeah. Um, who'd have thought Ryan Day making poor coaching decisions?
Never seen that before.
So going into this game, I honestly don't trust either coaching staff between Ryan Day and James Franklin. I don't trust either quarterback. Will Howard, obviously, we just talked about the Oregon game, doesn't make great decisions in tight games. We still don't necessarily know who's starting for Penn State between new look Trace McSorley at number 9, which I'm still guessing his name is Bo Pribula,
Yeah.
and Drew Aller.
It said that from what I've seen, Aller has been taking pretty much all the first team reps in practice this week.
The issue is this is week 10. I still don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Right.
I don't know who to pick in this game. And, just going back to what we talked about at the top, if Fox did not hate college football and this game was at night, Penn State 7 days a week, twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
But with it being at noon, I am begrudgingly taking Ohio State and hoping I'm wrong.
Yeah. I had a really hard time too deciding who to pick because these teams are really similar when you really break them down and break down their tendencies. Like they've got the veteran quarterbacks that have underwhelming offenses and solid defenses that give them the win, but they also haven't really played an offense except
Both
Ohio
teams have
State.
phenomenal running backs.
Yeah, they do. To me, though, the key difference between the two teams is Ohio State's ability to be explosive in the pass game. And I use the word explosive very carefully because I did not use the word good. Um, if they have to move the ball down the field play by play, if Penn State can make them do that, I like them in that situation because Nick Singleton is incredible. But
And K'Tron
Ohio's,
Allen behind him is
oh yeah,
just as good.
yeah, for sure. But Ohio State can score basically any time with those receivers, and that has proven to be the difference in some of these games. Not that the offense has been anywhere near spectacular, but in the Nebraska game, when they did score, from what I could see, it was usually the result of some big explosive play, at least getting them close to the goal line, and they took advantage after that. Um, my only hesitation is they did have some trouble against the run last week on defense, and that could be a problem with those two guys that we just mentioned. But I think everything that went wrong for them against Nebraska in the run game are things they could clean up if Ryan Day is a halfway decent coach. Now
So
he
jury's
isn't.
still out.
Yeah. But I also just am picking this game based on a principle, which is that if a game clears the way for Penn State to make the Big Ten championship or the playoff, they will lose that game every time.
Fair.
And until they prove me wrong, I'm going to continue to make that assumption. So give me the Buckeyes, but it's just going to be an ugly game to watch.
Do you feel as gross inside as I do by saying
Yeah,
Ohio State's going to win? Because I know you picked Ohio State to win the Big Ten a couple of weeks ago, so I just have
I
to
did,
ask.
which also felt gross. It does feel
Okay,
gross.
okay. As long as we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
A game that is the opposite of gross.
Oh, this will be fun.
So Ole Miss at Arkansas, Ole Miss -8, over under 53.5. And the very first bullet point I have here is this is one of the best non-rivalry games in the SEC.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are gonna question what I mean when I say that. Neither team claims this is a rivalry game, but Ole Miss versus Arkansas has produced some of the best games in the SEC over the past decade.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So since 2020, this series is even at 2-2. Going back to 2014, Arkansas owns it, going 6-4. And all the public trust that Lane Kiffin has earned with beating Penn State in the bowl game last season and getting 11 wins has gone down the toilet bowl with losses to Kentucky and LSU, and a close game to a 500 Oklahoma team, as odd as that is to say out
Yeah.
loud.
I've had Ole Miss fans messaging me saying he can go ahead and go to Florida. We don't care. There's talk about them tarmacking him again.
The issue is, as soon as he goes somewhere else, Ole Miss is going to go back to where they were
Yep.
before Hugh Freeze,
Yeah.
which, if I'm
It's not
being,
great.
I am one of those people that does not fall into the camp of college football is better when this team's good or this team's. College football is better when more teams are good,
Yeah.
right? And Ole Miss being fun, whether it is in a close win or a close loss, makes college football better.
Oh yeah.
So I don't want Lane to ever leave Ole Miss because he makes them fun.
Yeah. I would much rather Ole Miss be that team than Florida be that team.
Yeah, like give me a fun Ole Miss with like 2 or 3 pseudo rivalries and the Egg Bowl over Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss or Lane Kiffin at Florida.
Yeah.
But on the other side of this game, Sam Pittman has regained the trust of the fans and the public with a win against a top 5 at the time Tennessee team with the backup quarterback and kicker for Arkansas finishing that game, and then beating the hell out of Mississippi State last week for their third game of the season of getting more than 600 yards of offense. To me, this game comes down to how well Arkansas can stop the Ole Miss defense at the line of scrimmage. And I say that because no one has stopped this Arkansas offense while healthy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teams have stopped this Arkansas offense with somebody dinged up, whether it's Austin Armstrong or Jaquindon Jackson or Taylon Green, but they're all healthy this week. And nobody's really been able to stop that. And Arkansas coming in this game is 36th nationally against the run, 48th in sacks. If the Arkansas D line front seven is allowed to just do work, is allowed to go after Jackson Dart, go after the running backs, get guys behind the line of scrimmage, and the back end holds up, I think Arkansas wins this one outright in a thriller.
I would love if that happened, by the way. These two teams, they had that 52-51 game that was so incredible a couple years ago, right?
Yes, where Sam Pittman where Sam Pittman before overtime started said, regardless of what the coin toss says, when we get the ball, we're scoring and we're going for 2 and winning this bitch. And they did.
Yeah. Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff. Brian Kelly had to copy it. It was so good.
Facts.
Ole Miss this season has been one of those teams. They got a lot of hype in the early season because they ran up the score on a bunch of nobodies. And then as soon as they got to SEC play, they looked incredibly pedestrian.
And you could argue even against Georgia Southern, they didn't look great.
Yeah. Arkansas on the other side is kind of giving me some whiplash from game to game. Some of that has been health related. Just in terms of their going back and forth, particularly offensively. It looks like they figured some things out. So I definitely expect some points to be scored in this one, but I don't really know what to think. My gut is telling me that Ole Miss will squeak by because they've squeaked by in some other games. But that comes more from my gut than any actual analysis. And I'm also, again, kind of hoping my gut is wrong because Sam Pittman getting this win would be incredibly fun to watch.
Yeah, and just to clarify a little bit, Arkansas has to do more right to win this game than Ole Miss has to do to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think the line of Ole Miss -8 is asinine.
Yeah, I have to agree with that.
But as far as money line goes, Arkansas has to do more right. But they've shown the ability to do more right so far this season, which
Yeah,
is which is why I'm taking Arkansas in this one. But also, who just once again throwing it way back to our every SEC program as a Marvel movie. Sam Pittman at Arkansas is Captain America.
yeah.
The beginning of so many programs, and you cannot hate him. And, Arkansas is every SEC fan's second favorite team.
I'll drink to
Hell yeah, drink that water, brother.
that. My wife actually brought me some soda mid-podcast. I don't know what kind it is, but
Oh, there you
I'm
go.
enjoying it.
Made me feel like you were West there for a second, drinking Dr. Pepper, the barbecue sauce of sodas.
Oh man, DRP till I DIE is a saying around my house. I'm all about that Dr. Pepper. I don't know that that's what this is, but if it is, I appreciate it. If it is, it's diet, but I'm still taking.
I'm not a Dr. Pepper guy. It give
That's
me
okay. Not everybody could be men of culture.
so my biggest so way tangent here. Um, for for the better part of a decade now, anytime I eat or drink anything sweet, I get terrible acid reflux, right? So I just cut all that shit out of what I eat or drink. So even if I drink diet Dr. Pepper, it's still too sweet. I can't do it.
That okay, I can understand that.
Like
It can be a sweet overload.
I I have I have ice cream once a month maybe, and it's one of those things of I eat it, and normally my wife has to talk me into eating ice cream because I'm just like it's not worth the stomach problems I'm gonna have tonight, and she talks me into it, and then when the covers don't touch the bed all night long, if if you get what I'm saying, um, my wife's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have eaten ice cream. And I'm like,
You're
okay,
the one who wanted me to eat ice cream, but all right.
yep. We do this so often that I don't understand why you convinced me to do it.
Hmm. Well, you can get tickets for the Arkansas Ole Miss game this weekend for $23.
Man,
I wish our prices were that low at Georgia, but I don't because that would probably mean that we were not doing well as a program.
I'll be honest, whether it's in Oxford or Fayetteville, it's one of the games that I truly want to get to at some point, even if it
Oh yeah.
means I'm watching a recorded Georgia game. And I
Yeah,
know that sounds blasphemous to a lot of you guys. If I'm being honest, I don't care.
yeah.
Go back
I
and
I would prefer the game be against like Mississippi State if that was the case. But yeah.
and most of the time, the week that Ole Miss and Arkansas play is on Georgia's bye week. This season is really weird with Labor Day being a August weekend. I get it, but man, I I would miss watching a Georgia game to be at that game because I love football, I love environments, and if you can give me that environment and that sort of game, I'm going every time, you know?
Yeah.
Um Another slight tangent before we get to this game. I have my Kenny Powers costume on tonight.
Let's go.
Uh when I was out playing disc golf earlier, it started pouring down rain, so the mullet is not curly anymore. But it was,
Nice. Nice.
and I only realized that when I went to grab something out of my shirt pocket and felt the vinyl on the front. But just speaking of vinyl and plastic, A&M in South Carolina, and I say plastic because objectively, both of their offenses are not good.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that in a minute. A&M going in this game, 3-point favorites in Willie B, over under 44.5. So the first bullet I have here after the line, the over under is this game is a D line junkies wet dream.
Hello, I'm the D-line junkie.
Same.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that my wife's entire family is scared of Halloween Horror Nights, and I will be home by the time this game starts.
Let's go.
And so I'm going to deep dive a little bit into why I say that. A&M is 15th in the country in tackles for loss, 40th in sacks, and 18th against the run. South Carolina is 7th in tackles for loss, 3rd in sacks, and 16th against the run.
I almost gave y'all a very suggestive ASMR there, and I'm glad I thought better of
it. The defensive dominance does not stop there for South Carolina. They are 38th against the pass and 13th in turnovers. South Carolina's defense this season is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit more inside the park baseball. Kaleb, Mike, and myself watched SEC Media Days the day South Carolina was on, and we quite literally sent each other quotes from South Carolina's Media Days that we intended on clipping for memes throughout the season.
Yeah.
When South Carolina's defense was bad.
And it hasn't shown up.
It hasn't. We all expected it, and they have proven. And one specific instance is Scooby Williams, one of their inside linebackers, said, "I'm going to be mad if I don't see goose eggs on the board for the other team."
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
And we figure Brock Vandegrift will put up 40 on this team, and we'll all laugh about that.
Yep. No, South Carolina's defense is phenomenal. I don't think that can be understated how good their defense is. And if Georgia played South Carolina this season, I would not be surprised if it was a game like the Kentucky game.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm glad they're losing some games, so there's a good chance we don't see them later, because they make me nervous.
Yeah, like this South Carolina defense is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
And real glad we don't have East versus West anymore.
Me too.
But the issue for South Carolina is that they're 66th in scoring offense, 64th in rushing offense, and all the way down in 108th in passing offense. For South Carolina to have a chance in this game, Rocket Sanders is going to have a performance matching or exceeding his game against LSU, where he went off for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. And on top of that, I think Lenore Sellers is going to have a game close to 200 passing yards and 75 rushing yards for South Carolina to win this game, just because of how highly I think of that A&M defense.
And now it's not crazy though to think he could do that.
No.
But it'll be tough.
Yeah, if this was next year's Lenora Sellers, and you had 2 years ago Rocket Sanders with next year's Lenora Sellers, I'm calling South Carolina to win this game outright. And if I'm being entirely honest, I think South Carolina, if they have 2 years ago Rocket Sanders and next year's Lenore Sellers, I think they're top 4 in the SEC.
Accurate.
The problem is they don't have that. And I think A&M finds a way to pull out an ugly win. Like, I'm talking 23-21 ugly. The under hits, they don't cover, but they win against, in my opinion, the most dangerous unranked team in college football. Well, they're tied with Vandy.
Right. So there's a saying in politics, and I promise this is related, and it's not going to get strictly political. Whoever the election becomes a referendum on is the one who loses. And we've kind of taken that approach here with our breakdowns of the game. You focused very heavily on South Carolina and then picked Texas A&M. I'm going to focus on Texas A&M for a little bit. Uh, they are currently the top team in the conference, as we know, but they have been pretty inconsistent. But you could really say that about the rest of the conference too. You know, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Texas A&M, though, they are overdue for a blunder, aren't they? They've had a quarterback controversy on their hands. They're coming off a big win against LSU. It could be a letdown spot. South Carolina's been able to get really hot in some of their games. It's Willie B at night. Like this has all the makings of an upset. And I'm not the only one saying it. A lot of people are saying it, but even so, I don't think the Aggies can handle the Cox. That's just think they're overdue for it.
So, question before we move on to the next game. How much of that has to do with confidence in the coaching staff? Because I think subconsciously for me, I have more faith in Mike Elko than I do Shane Beamer.
Oh, I do too. This has very little to do with the coaching staff,
Okay.
more to do with the fact that South Carolina's got a lot of young players, and that stadium is going to be rocking. Young players tend to really feed off the crowd more. And when these talented young players get hot, they get real hot. We've seen it for South Carolina throughout the year.
I gotcha.
But yeah, it has nothing to do with Beamer.
Okay.
Nothing whatsoever.
Okay. But, we're talking about hot right now. So let's get
We got a couple of
into
pretty burning hot teams in this one right now.
absolutely. And we're talking about Georgia versus Florida. We're talking about the PC version is the war for the ore. The non-PC version that literally everybody uses is the world's largest outdoor
Mhm.
cocktail party.
You could
Going
also
into
just call it Georgia, Florida, not the other way around. It's Georgia, Florida.
yeah, I I plan on talking to a certain individual about that this year.
Hmm.
This weekend specifically, given the opportunity. Um, but you know, well, my wife's already said, "Hey, don't talk about football when we get there." And I'm like, It's like it's my second job. It's his
Yeah.
first. I don't know if we can get away from it.
Yeah,
It,
that's
it
fair.
yeah, like if it's a personality trait, you're supposed to avoid that when you meet up with your
Right.
friends. I don't know. I don't get
You're
it.
asking the chicken to avoid cockadoodle doing in the morning. Like,
Yeah. Going into this game in Jacksonville, Georgia's 14.5 point favorites, and I just want to emphasize something real quick to you guys that don't necessarily follow betting lines. Last week, Georgia opened up as 22.5 point favorites, and
yeah,
it
this
has
has come
dropped
way down.
every single day to 14.5 as of a few hours ago. I don't know what it currently is. I know what it was at 4 p.m. Over under for this one's 51.5. But I do have to go back to what I said last week. This Florida team is significantly better than they were even a few weeks ago. And just to clarify, and I am emphasizing the L in Florida because they have 3 losses.
Yeah,
Graham Mertz was completing 76.6% of his passes for 8.4 yards per attempt before he was injured this season. But since DJ Lagway is completing 62.8% of his passes, but for 11.9 yards per attempt.
it's not bad.
Pretty good, arguably. The biggest weakness on this Florida team was exposed in week one. The defense gave up 529 total yards, 385 passing, 144 rushing to Miami. Now, I'm not even going to try to say that Georgia's offense that we have right this moment is on the same level as Miami, but the passing offense is not far off. Miami is second in passing offense while Georgia's 13th. But the point is, Georgia is the best team that Florida has played since week one.
I would take off the since week one. Georgia would beat Miami by 2 touchdowns, at least.
I don't. Okay, Georgia is the best offense Florida
Okay,
has played since week one.
that's fair.
Defense is a different conversation when you're talking about offense and defense. But if you
Yeah.
arguably, you could say Texas A&M is the better offense than Georgia's, but their or
The
defense
overall
is
team
better.
makeup.
Yeah, but total team, they're the best team that Florida has played since week one. And if we are going to prove to the country that Georgia really is back to the standard defensively, they've got to play like they did in that Texas game. And I don't mean exactly the same because honestly, that Texas performance was 2022 TCU level
Yeah.
defensive performance, and you can't necessarily ask that of your guys week in and week out. But you've got to make the Florida players pay for choosing the wrong school.
Facts.
And going into Florida's offensive performance against a lot of the better teams they played this year, Miami got 3 sacks and 2 turnovers. A&M got 2 sacks and 3 turnovers. Tennessee got 3 sacks and 2 turnovers. So this Georgia defense has the ability to beat the hell out of Florida.
Oh, yeah.
They've got to attack DJ Lagway with reckless abandonment. They don't have anyone behind him at quarterback with Graham Mertz being out for the season. So he will not be as willing to run the ball. The offense, I think, will get going because their defense hasn't really played any sort of significant passing threat since week one. I'm not really super worried about the offense going into this game. But if they do not get after DJ Lagway and make him see ghosts like they did with Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, DJ Lagway has the ability to hurt you like pretty much only Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning have the ability to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take the Dogs to win this game, but do not be shocked if Florida puts up 20 plus points in this game.
Well, I'm going to take a slightly different approach. I agree the Dogs will win, but you did bring up Georgia's going to have to rattle DJ Lagway. We've seen this movie before, John. Florida bringing in a freshman quarterback with no experience, but 5 stars from a journalist, legitimate NFL prospects to start against Georgia. And do you remember how that went for the last freshman quarterback in that situation?
I remember a lot of turnovers and a fired coach.
Yeah. Specifically 3 turnovers in about a minute and a half, plus another one in the course of the game. Problem is, part of it, at least, was that he's soft as tissue paper and still is sitting out plays because we got a little tired and needed a nappy nap to win the game.
Yeah, when you're getting benched for Joe Flacco as a pro,
That's the problem.
no hate towards Joe Flacco
Yeah.
because
In his prime, he was a very good
in
NFL
cleanup,
Yeah.
in rescue situations, like Joe Flacco is the ultimate lifeguard of the NFL, if you will.
Yeah. But also, Kirby does have a way of sort of exposing all the weaknesses of freshman quarterbacks. He is 12-0 against freshman starting quarterbacks. I said starting because I know a game comes to your mind, Alabama fans.
And fuck
starting. Yeah. And really most of them didn't really have great stats, a vast majority of them. So DJL, emphasis on the L, won't be much different in my opinion. Rewatching that Kentucky game for Florida. I'm not the Georgia Kentucky game. I'm never rewatching that one again. But rewatching the game between Florida and Kentucky, saw a lot of reliance on eye candy and on pre-snap reads. So if Kentucky's defense disguised coverage or adjusted mid-play at all, he was kind of cooked. There was a couple of series in particular. He threw a deep ball on one drive to Badger, put it right in his hands. He Badger basically ran right by the safety as he was rolling over on a cover one. Then the very next drive, they came out, same formation, same exact play, run it again, same pre-snap read, different receiver, but same direction, same spot on the field. But this time, the Kentucky safety read it and got in there and picked it off because he was relying too much on the pre-snap read and not seeing what the defense was actually doing. Now, if I noticed that, don't you think Kirby and Shu noticed that too?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
So,
if we talk about anything in particular, the Georgia's dumbest graduate assistant has picked up on it.
oh yeah, for sure. Now, so again, I think disguising coverage, playing disciplined is going to be the key in this game. Things that Georgia has already shown itself more than capable to do. So I'm not really worried about that side of the ball a whole lot. I actually don't think, unless there's just some absolute busts in coverage, which is possible, but unless there's that, I don't really see Florida actually scoring a whole lot in this game. In terms of when Georgia has the ball, though, I couldn't help but notice you focused very heavily on the passing offense, which is fair because Georgia's rushing attack hasn't been great this year, but offensive line is getting better. It's getting a key piece back in all likelihood in Tate Ratledge. It's essentially a revenge game for ETN. Florida's rushing defense barely ranks inside the top 100 in the nation. Haven't exactly been facing down Ashton Jeanty either on the way there. So if there were a get right game for this Georgia running attack and for the Georgia offense as a whole, by extension, it is this week. You already talked about Florida's pass defense. Their rush defense really hadn't been anything to write home about either. So I think if we put it all of that together, I think Georgia wins pretty big here. I think they cover by a touchdown. I'm not betting that. I have different bets in this game. I am actually betting on this game, which is, I know, not something you like to do, but I'm so
Nope.
sure about some of these things that I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is on it.
I love your
Uh,
confidence.
yeah. I think this Georgia defense will make DJL, emphasis on the L, regret ever taking a scholarship at Florida. I think they will hold this Florida offense to single digits pretty easily.
Ooh, I like that. While we're getting bold, let's go ahead and head over to best bets.
Hmm.
So for mine, I got 4 this week, 3 different games. First one, I have Air Force at Army over 41.
Oh yeah.
First off,
Army might hit that by themselves.
I was about to say that's an atrocious over under. I am
Yeah.
100% actually putting money on this one. But also, Bryson Daly to get 2+ touchdowns is plus money this week,
Ooh.
which, once again, I am going to continue to say this and hope somebody that actually can make a difference hears this. If Bryson Daly is branched any other branch of the Army but infantry, you have failed. I do not care what he wants.
I
I don't.
was I was I was looking to see if this over under was so low and that was getting plus money because Air Force has this great defense.
Nope.
Just a couple weeks ago, they gave up 52 to New Mexico, and it's not
They gave up 40
Diego.
something to Navy.
Yeah, well, 34, but still, yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm taking Army Air Force over 41, Bryson Daly 2+ touchdowns, and once again, I am hoping someone important hears this. Bryson Daly needs to go infantry. And if you're not in the know, you're not going to necessarily understand or care what I'm talking about. If you put someone as tough as Bryson Daly in any other part of the Army but infantry, you have failed your country.
Yeah.
You don't put a dude that can get laid out running downfield while he and the defender are running at around 20 miles an hour and jump back up for the next play and say, you know what? I bet he'd be damn good at paperwork. Like that,
No.
don't. I
Dude is a
promise you,
dog. Dude
I
is an
pro-
absolute dog.
our official Nothing Finer Instagram is following Bryson Daly. for the intent of reaching out to him to figure out, one, what part of the army he's going to,
Yeah.
and two,
Is
why
it
the army
infantry?
failed him.
Yeah.
Because there's 1 out of 13 choices that's not a failure.
Yeah. I do have to say I'm looking forward in a few years to watching Bryson Daly highlights versus ISIS. It's going to be great.
ISIS, Al Qaeda, the Taliban, Iran, North Korea,
I've
China.
lost your audio there.
Oh, you get me back?
Might be me though.
Oh, let's see. Okay, I'm reading on my computer. Are you good? Regardless,
Okay.
it does not matter what terrorist or nation Bryson Daly is fighting. He's going to win.
Definitely not just my interface kicking in.
Oh, can you hear me? Hello? Hello, hello? All right, I'm going to keep going. And if you can't hear me by the time I'm done, I'm just going to point to you. And he's gone. All right, next game I have Oregon minus 14.5 at Michigan. This has a lot more to do with my lack of confidence in Michigan than my belief in Oregon. Because I don't necessarily believe in Oregon's defense per se. But I refuse at this point to believe in Michigan's ability to throw a forward pass. So I've got Oregon minus 14.5 at Michigan. Last game I have is my stretch of the week. I have Louisville at Clemson over 62. Clemson has had a tendency over the last month or so to get up big, put their second string defense in, allow a ton of points, and then put their first string guys back in. And that's kind of why I think this game's going over 62. Caleb, can you hear me?
All right. I can tell from the pointing that it's my turn to do bets, even though I still can't hear anything there. So yeah, my first one that I am hitting, my first fade that you should probably do. Although I went 2-2 last week, so I'm not cursed. I'm just bad at this. So my first one is going to be Vanderbilt, who is for some reason an underdog against Auburn. Granted, they're going to Openlenka, but I think 7.5 points is way too many points for you to be given Auburn in absolutely any context. So give me Vanderbilt plus the 7.5. Tennessee against Kentucky. Spoiler alert, Kentucky's not good. We thought they would be. There are players for Kentucky that are good. The team is not good, and I'm finally ready to admit that. So Tennessee, as much as it pains me, I'm laying the points with Tennessee, partially hoping that I'm cursed in some way so that maybe Kentucky can put up a fight. But for now, I got to lay the points with Tennessee. It just seems like not enough points considering the way that both of these teams have played lately.
If
I
you're
would take the
cursed, I
under
do
in this
not
game
like these
too.
next two bets.
All right, I still can't hear you, but I'm assuming you're good to go. So now, for the probably ill-advised bets on a Georgia game, I like the under in this one. I'm not taking Georgia minus the points because you never know with Georgia. They're almost allergic to covering the spread in games where they're big favorites for whatever reason. But I do like the under 52.5. Again, I just don't think Florida's going to score a whole lot. And so I've also got a Florida team total at 17.5. I like Florida going under 17.5 as well.
All right, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. I'm truly hoping you guys can hear me on the audio version. If not, I'll figure it out. But as always, follow us on Instagram at nothing.finer.pod, on Twitter at finerpod, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just search us there. You will find us. Rate and review the show 5 stars. Share it with a friend. Continue to help us grow. That'd be awesome. But as always, remember there is nothing finer in the land
Then a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan. I read your lips for that one.